Hello. We're not live.
We are now.
False start.
Okay.
Oops.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome, Adrian. Hello.
Nice
Welcome
to be
back
with
to your
you
own
again,
live
Sally.
stream.
Thank you.
Welcome to our latest live stream. And Adrian Winter, co-founder and Learning Love teacher, is here to take us in another dive into the modality of learning love, but also into the dilemma of we all want connection so much, and yet a lot of us tend to sort of self-sabotage and to block it as well.
That's right.
Yeah. So we'll just give hello whoever's joined. Do come on and it's Margaret. Hello, Margaret. Welcome to the live
Hi,
stream.
Margaret.
We'll just give people a chance to catch the live, and we're sitting up here on the terrace. Tell us a little bit about the terrace.
Well, this was a old crumbling building when I moved in, when I bought it, and it was just livable in, but the walls were falling apart. And it had a beautiful old terrace out here. It was a little bit like it felt like a skateboard park because the floor was so up and down, and it was all crooked, and and it had a covered area at the end, as we've got now, with little arched window. It was much more basic than this, but it really worked well, especially in the heat of the summer. You can sit outside but be sheltered from the sun. So we've made it larger, but we really wanted to keep this outdoor space, and then the half outdoor, half indoor space. That's hence the Moroccan snug, which you can see behind us.
Yeah, it's beautiful, really beautiful. So hello, Jenny. Welcome to the live stream.
Hi, Jenny. It's good to see you back.
If either of you have any questions or comments or anything that Adrian could perhaps help you with or give you an insight into, do post in the comments throughout the live stream. It would be lovely to share this space with you. So the dilemma of us all wanting connection, but then going and self-sabotaging it or blocking it.
Yeah. This is what we spend a lot of time. This is what I see come up at retreats, and I see come up in sessions. People's longing to connect, or longing to get into relationship, or finding themselves in a relationship but feeling lonely, feeling on their own, feeling disconnected from their partner. And what that's about, how does that come about? And as I understand it, this comes about through when we're born, we are so deeply wanting, or it's our healthy, functional state to want connection with our parents. It's just one of the most incredibly inbuilt programs in all of our DNA is to connect with these two people. It's survival, and as we go forward, it's not just the survival of connecting with mum to get food and connecting with dad to hold the family together, to create the longing and the wanting from the parents to do what's needed to bring a child, because we take a long time to get up on our feet and running on our own. Unlike any other animal, it takes some input from the parents. So that connection's there on a survival level. When your baby's born, you simply cannot help doing everything you can for them.
It's like a primal thing, isn't it? So you've got the mother that innately nurtures, you've got the father that's maybe the hunter-gatherer maybe, and then you've got the child that really just needs both.
Yeah, and has an incredible way of drawing that out of the parents.
Oh, yes.
Like they've done studies, and they show that across all animal species, we all recognise the babies in other species, and we feel differently towards them. A lot of animals will attack other species, but not the babies. There's something about the large eyes and that. There's an opening. There's
the energy of them.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to connect, to spend time around a newborn and not just be taken into a space of what can I, how can I serve you? What can I do to help? And so there's that connection to begin with, which is necessary. And then as we grow, that longing for connection is plugging us into learning. How do we, because we need to learn from these two people how to be a person ourselves. How do I, what am I, if I'm a boy, then I look to my dad and go, okay, that's what a man looks like. That's what I'm growing up to be. If I'm content in my sexuality, maybe I might be looking to my mum and going, actually, I would feel more comfortable being a woman. But we still look to those above us, to our caregivers, for the programming of how this works. This is an incredibly complex being, a human being, and we're born into that and go, oh, okay, how does this work? So that's the longing for connection is deep. It's there when we're born, and we're never going to lose that. But as we go through life and we take on these knocks, these hits that happen naturally through anybody's life, like the birth itself can be hectic. There's whole natural rhythms to life that maybe have been knocked out of sync by modern lifestyles, for instance. So birth used to be a rhythm that was taken by the woman giving birth. She would find a quiet and private space, as mammals do, and there would be protection around, but not so much interference, not so much observation. And the hormones, the chemical levels take her through a journey, comes round and up and down, and through a series of expressions that lead the body to birth. And modern day birthing often simply doesn't have time or space for that. There's bright lights, there's often people in the room that the mum's not actually very familiar with, or maybe have met them for a handful of times, but there's not the same rhythm. So our birthing can be different nowadays. And we're born into what could be seen as a more strained existence, in terms of it's not so simple as it used to be. So that can affect, and it can affect our parents. So their set of agendas going on around us arriving are very complex and not understandable by the child.
And then the child moves straight into that environment and that energy and the complex emotions. And
so we're born with this absolute need, compulsion, healthy want to connect, and we meet problems, we meet blockages with that. Sometimes our parents can't be there for us in a way we would dearly love, for whatever reason, and then there's the time to go to school and you're pushed through the gates and you don't want to go, or somebody gets ill and a mum has to go in the hospital, or the child goes to the hospital and is then separated from their family to some extent, at least, sometimes to a large extent. And other when we go to school, we can find teachers that don't connect, or other adults in the space that have difficulty connecting and opening to us. So we have this need to connect, but all through our childhood, there are little signs and symbols and difficulties in places where that longing gets not fulfilled or blocked or knocked back, and this creates a lot of emotion. What a pain. And often it creates more emotion than the child can handle. So we learn this is where we learn the strategies to not feel, because we would simply go insane if we felt just everything that
shut down, as it were. Or
so we learn to shut down, or we learn to cope, and our coping mechanisms become the character that we are as we grow up. So I could be the clown in the family, or I could be the one that's difficult, or the one that's a hypochondriac. I'm always focusing on my latest rash or my difficulties. I'm allergic to this, that, and the other. Or it can be very strong psychosomatics. So you can end up with very strong real physical problems come from this. Or some people go another way and they're absolutely overachiever, brilliant geniuses by the time they're 5. But also this can be pushed from it's a way of not being able to be with that amount of feeling that it conjures up when we can't connect. So when we carry this into adult life, we become adults and we go, oh, I would really love to be in a relationship, say, and yet that connection is there. It's so deep, it's ingrained in us all our lives. I've met people that say, I don't really know, I like being on my own, I don't want to connect, but actually there is a longing to connect within all of us. And it might be that the longing to connect is just too painful because of bad experiences or traumatic experiences when they're little. So and we've already learned how not to feel that stuff. So we have our set of strategies, and that's why, although we would all love to be in connection and have satisfying, rewarding relationships, whether they be friendships, working relationships, or lovers, we sabotage. We go so far with someone and then just don't let them in any further, or we bounce from one person to another to keep it safe. Or some people will always choose people that are unavailable, so they stay safe. So they want connection. We all want connection, but many of us find ways to limit it. To limit it, or to stop it altogether, or to make it to try to feel safe, because it's very painful.
And I suppose some people will go through life not even realizing that is a pattern that they're living out because of the circumstances of their childhood. But then there's people that think, right, okay, I've had a stream of short relationships and they never work out, and they take a moment to think, well, something's going on here, so maybe there's something that I need to look at for me. And that's when they come to somebody like you, or they come to a Learning Love retreat to find out more about themselves.
Normally only when the person comes to a place where they're suffering and they see this isn't working for me. So they may enjoy a varied love life, but at some point they feel, but it's just empty. There's something I want. I want to go deeper, because there's nothing wrong with the moving from partner to partner. But at some point, sometimes we arrive at a place where some part of us realizes this is avoidance of connection rather than connection. It feels like connection. It's just like, wow, I connect really easily with this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. But then it's actually very much so in this work, a one-to-one committed relationship. There's no moral obligation. There's no that's better or worse. But it's very much where the work can really happen, because in a one-to-one relationship, I have to face my stuff. I have to face what comes up in that relationship. To stay in it, to deepen into it, I have to work at where my blockages are, where my limits are, of where I feel safe, how I push away when I do, and what triggers me when I allow somebody to come that much closer to me. It's so much easier when I used to not do long-term relationships because I found them too painful, and so I spent some years going, okay, no commitments. This is who I am. It was great, and I felt like there was a lot of intimacy there, until I got into this work, and they said, but I think you'll discover, Adrian, that wasn't so deep, and I wasn't having that at first. I was like, no, some of the, lots of those connections are really intimate and really deep, but I understand now. That's they were very, some of those relationships were really short-term relationships. They were all short, and some of them were very deep and very intimate, but obviously only to a point where it was time to, and taxi. I just because nothing to do with the other person really. Just there was I would move up because I wasn't ready to face the struggle.
It all comes down to actually wanting to change, or wanting to have that connection, and being ready to face yourself and dive in.
So the wanting's there inherently in all of us. It really is. Maybe there's people in the world that don't have that, but that would be extremely rare. Deep down, we all do want to connect. It's part of the human organism. Very social beings. It's how we've evolved for hundreds of thousands of years. And so the longing's there. Usually people don't come to look at it until they're suffering, until they realise this. I'm sick of this, and I don't want to go on like this anymore.
Is it generally, do you think, would it tend to be like people sort of like maybe that are in their 50s or something, or 40s, 50s, and they're getting to that stage of life where they realise perhaps that travelling around and living a freer lifestyle isn't, you know, because 70, 80 isn't that far away, and they want to have that stability perhaps in their
Well,
life?
no,
Or
that's not my experience. My experience is it's changing, because when I got involved with the work, yes, I think it was more older people, and um, I was in a difficult marriage. I got myself in a space that I was really uncomfortable, and I used to think of it as, this is work for people who are like struggling in their second marriage. You know, I wasn't. I was in my first marriage, but it was struggle enough for me to go, okay. But yeah, that you've got enough life experience to know something's out of kilter here, and I can't get to where I want to be. But I'm not. My experience working with people is actually, most of the people I'm working with now in late 20s, early 30s, and many of them are not. They're not already putting fires out, if you like. They're not in crisis. They are interested in deepening. They can see there's bits that they would like to. They can see where they're sabotaging. They can see stuff not operating for them so well, and they are already aware, so much more aware than I was at that age, that you don't have to be in full crisis. You don't have to be really suffering. I think that's shifted. I think our generation, there was more stigma around it, and you really, for me, definitely, I really had to be in trouble. I really had to be at my like, I don't know what to do next before I asked for help. And I see lots of young people I speak to now seem to have so much more awareness that that there's something here you can do that's for enriching. It's not just a rescue. It's an enriching of what's already going well.
That's great, though, isn't it? It shows, really, you know, people really are waking up to what's inside rather than the external and the material. And I think that's really encouraging. I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Yeah, well, that's my experience of it. I used to think this work and the retreats is going to be more. I do still think generally those that come on a 5-day retreat, usually people that have been through enough relating to go, I need this is
it's time.
I need some support. But my one-to-one sessions, more people coming. You just want to deepen into it.
So you take them back into their childhood or their history, or how do you help?
You start with where somebody's at now, and I mean really now. So that's in a session often that's where we start. It's like, what's alive for you now? What's triggering you now? Or if it's been a few days ago or this week, it's often alive. Then the person can connect with that, and we work with that. That often does lead to a connection with. You can be, if somebody's really triggered, especially in a relationship, then they might turn up going, oh my God, he's done this. You know, and that, he's always doing this. And I've told him I can't stand it. There's real focus on the other. It's not inwards. When we triggered, we come up and out.
That's right. Yes.
It's them.
Because we're perfect, aren't we?
Well, I think it's such a natural reaction to. It's not so much that we think we're perfect. It's just I don't want to feel my stuff. So if I focus on them being wrong, this is also an ego thing. It separates us. So if I'm right, I'm right. I'm right. Who cares whether I'm happy or not? I'm right. So people will often, if they're very triggered, they're focused on the other, and we can start looking at what it feels like when the other triggers, and often then that what that feels like, what the emotions involved, and the beliefs with the emotions. They can then recognize that from a previous relationship. It's not just this one. It's not just connected with the present relationship I'm in. Often there's an echo there from there'll be and then often that does go back to childhood.
And like, just to clarify, the connection that you're talking about, it's not physical intimacy, it's emotional, energetic.
It's all round, and physical intimacy is one of the deepest, most difficult areas to work with, and I'm still absolutely feel like, wow, it's an area where I'm working on my own relationship, have been quite deeply for the last 4 years, and it's incredible what I'm discovering about myself. Absolutely extraordinary. To find bits at this point in my life, having thought that area of my life I'd really explored. When I was younger, I explored it lots. So I thought I knew quite a lot about it, knew a lot about it. And I thought I knew myself, and I thought I'd broken down the boundaries and gone wherever I wanted to go. And I just, by staying focused in a committed relationship and a family and actually working through, doing sessions and deepening in, I've discovered whole areas, it feels like digging down, and I found underground lakes.
Yes.
You know, these underground lakes that they find, like, oh my God, of shame, of blockage, of need of validations. One I discovered, I had no idea how much my connection with women sexually was my need for validation, and therefore when it wasn't flowing smoothly, it would affect me, not so much in the moment, but over the next days. And what was that? I didn't know what that energy was. I could feel the frustration. And it will be different for different people, but for me, eventually, with a lot of support, I came to the awareness that actually I'm looking for validation. And then working with that, that's shifted for me now. That's not such a thing. I find validation elsewhere, taking responsibility for what I was bringing to that connection, which partly was this need, which is a childhood need. I needed validating as a kid. It wasn't there. I was in a big family. It wasn't particularly functional. And I recognise this in myself. I've always felt like, I wasn't really born in my own right. Born into quite a serious chess game going on between my parents' power struggles, and I was just another pawn in that. That's my experience of it. So now, in my 50s, I finally found out one of the most powerful driving forces in anybody's life is sexual. You know, we are the product of millions of occasions where male and female came together and felt that. And life comes through it. So in today's society, it's buried. It's like not talked about a lot of the time. And then it's put up in posters to sell cars and porn in ways that's just out of balance in terms of, it's not a balanced view of what sex is about, should we say. I'm not saying there's something inherently wrong with it, although parts of it I do think are not so good. But the disbalance with it, so we're skew-whiffed. It's like, in some ways, sex is everywhere, but nobody really talks about it.
Very true.
And part of that, I feel, is it's our deepest life force. It's absolutely crucial. Osho says you might meet somebody and chat with them, and then 5 years later, someone reminds you, do you remember that person? And he said, you might not remember what they were studying. You might not know what they were doing for work. You might not remember their name. You might not remember the colour of their eyes, their hair, or where they lived, or anything else about them. But I bet you'll remember whether it was a woman or a man. And my memory is absolutely horrific. I do forget all those other things, but he's right.
Yes.
I know if it was a woman, and I know if it was a man.
Yeah.
And that's part of this deep connection. So what the connection I'm talking about is across the board. It's not sexual, but the sexual area is in there somewhere. And it's not something I would even feel qualified to talk so much about, because I feel I'm so amazed at what I'm just discovering now about myself. I'm like, ooh, this is an area where I watch other people working in that area that have got a lot of experience in it. It's a very, very skilled area to work, because it's so deep and it carries so much trauma.
Trauma, stigma,
and shame.
Yes.
And shame's hard.
Shame's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a very tough one. So there we're all craving this connection.
And blocking it.
And blocking it,
in many ways.
And the answer is
to do the work.
To do the work, yes. There's no getting away from it.
Or there is, I suppose some people maybe, are happy
Or
as
just,
they are.
yeah, if they're
you know.
happy as they are, then that's fine, isn't it?
But where the paradox is, that's how I understand it. We're born with the wish to connect. It gets stymied, it gets stifled when we're little, and that's painful.
Yeah.
And we can't feel all of that pain at the time,
Yeah.
so we block it in. And so now we're adults, we're now in a position where, with the right support or with the right tools, and the willingness, which comes usually from suffering, we can go, okay, now I'm ready to feel what I couldn't feel then, to face it and go, okay, this is what I experienced. Yeah. You could say, this is what happened to me, but often there's a misunderstanding anyway. So but it's what I experienced.
Exactly, yeah.
And it'd be different from my siblings' experience,
That's it, yeah.
but it's what I experienced. And to own that and to feel the grief involved, or the joy involved, or the anger, or the loss, or, to really allow that to come through, is to honour it, is to validate it, is to be able to have it where I can observe it, and and it's useful stuff. Fear is the emotion that helps us take stock what's around me and make a plan. How do I move forward?
It's a primal emotion to protect us.
Grief is an emotion that helps me connect with other people. It gives me the ability to have empathy. Anger, as a pure energy, is the energy we use to build houses, to go and get the jobs we want, to create the lives we want around us, and to set boundaries. Really important. You see, a lot of the strategies we have that sabotage relationship, often there's not boundaries. And clear boundary setting helps us be closer to people. And again, it sounds like a paradox.
It does, yes. Yeah.
But when we're clear about our boundaries, and we're in touch with the anger we've had from times in our childhood where our boundaries are stepped over, if I'm connected with that anger, then it's easy for me to say to somebody, it's fine for you to ring me, but not after 6, and the person will get that.
Yeah.
If I can't own my anger, then I'm likely to say to them, I'd rather you didn't call after 6. And they hear it in my voice, and they'll just ring me any old time.
Yeah.
They might even purposely ring after 6 because it almost reels them in, doesn't it? Go on, wind me up. See what I do.
Isn't it interesting how setting a basic boundary that's actually really not a big deal can be the biggest deal to actually voice it?
Yeah.
Because there's a fear of upsetting, or there's the fear of consequence, or there's the fear of rejection. That it takes us down the abandonment route and people pleasing.
Yeah.
And yet when you do say it, and this is something that I've been through. I used to be like a real people pleaster. So I'd like to say I'm a recovering people pleaser. Still in recovery.
You're in good company, so.
Still in recovery, but doing well.
Yeah.
I would never do anything to rock the boat. I would never sort of say no in different circumstances, and now I've found that if I do say no, it actually makes everything so much easier, and for the other person as well. It's a relief because they know where they stand. Whereas before they might have been tiptoeing around or getting it wrong because they'd tried to do something and that had been even worse than what we'd thought about before, and you know what I'm trying to say. Everything can just sort of spiral. With resentment there. Yes, yeah.
And people know that. I mean, it's horrible to feel resentful of people around you because you haven't thought back, but also they don't.
Yeah.
They pick up on it.
And then it's just in the air, isn't it?
And there are several areas where we can carry fear about intimate relating, and one of those is losing ourselves. There's a fear of abandonment. If I let this person in close, they might leave, or they might go off with my best friend, and I'll be abandoned. There's the fear of losing ourselves, which often happens if you're a people pleaser, because you know instinctively that you're going to end up compromising too much, and bending round, and then you look, and then after a while you're like, who was I? And that's painful. There's the fear of boredom, which you see in people that are, as I was, addicted to excitement and variation and new partners and sports and whatever. That's leaves us feeling like, oh, but if I'm in a relationship, I'll get bored. So I sabotage. I'm frightened of it. And all of the excitement was for me, and is generally when it's addictive. That's a strategy to not feel what's inside, which brings us around to meditation also, which is an important part of this work. That's sitting or standing or walking meditations, whatever you do, the question of why is it uncomfortable? Because when we sit to meditate or we try to still, it can be uncomfortable. You start going, there's a fly in my nose, or my knees are aching,
or your shopping list comes into mind.
No, oh God, what about this? What about that? That the question kind of is, what is this discomfort in just being myself? But by practicing some meditation in life, it allows space. It's a practice to allow us to have breathing room around what pops up. These things that pop up and drive us are often driven by and motivated from buried emotion, from our childhood traumas. So to practice having a bit of space and breathing and going, okay, my mind's busy, and I'll just come back to the body. Oh, my mind's busy again, I'll just come back to the body. Oh, there's me and there's pain in my knees. It's okay, I'll come back. I'll just come back. And I just observe, and I don't judge, and I don't fix it, and I don't move, and I don't get up to close the window. I just observe that I want to. That's good practice for having breathing room around stuff when it comes up, when I'm relating. And breathing room gives me choice to respond instead of react.
So do you meditate every day? Do you have like a meditation practice that's...
I got a tip from Eckhart Tolle about
he's amazing, isn't he?
Oh, I love him. Yeah, really beautiful work. And he talked about every time you remember, just taking one conscious breath. Or two or three. So just stopping and coming into the body, and if you're really conscious about a breath and you feel the physicality, the body sensation of taking a breath, your thinking stops. So it just takes a break. And for me, that's replaced. I used to have a meditation practice every morning, and now I like to just, whenever I remember, to just stop and really regularly. And often that connects with scanning with my body. It's the somatic experience. It's coming inside and going, what's going on? Which when I work with somebody with the Learning Love model to begin with, I say, when you're triggered, try and come inside, see what's happening with your body, because the trigger's the reminder. But it's a practice, and once you practice it for a while, and when you see the benefits, when the suffering comes down, you start seeing, I'm not struggling with this so much. That's then the motivation for me it was to continue, and I see it with lots of other people, so that now I don't need to be triggered to come into my body. It's the same. Whenever I remember, I just scan them. That's funny. Look, something's happening down here, and I know something's going on, and I wouldn't have known, but my body knows. My body knows long before my mind would notice that I'm triggered.
The body speaks, isn't it? The body speaks everything.
And learning to listen to it is just such a helpful move, step towards living in authenticity.
Because I think a lot of people struggle with, if you say that meditation is part of the practice of learning love, that becomes it could become another resistance or a block, because like you say, for sitting in peace and in presence and meditating, I haven't got time, or I can't do that, or my mind's too busy. But if, like you say, you just take that conscious breath and you slow down, it could just be maybe sitting and looking at the view, or listening to some lovely music, but just creating that space will help.
And finding what your way. But for me, often I'll put a piece of food in my mouth. And the food's good around here.
It's very good.
Kerry's amazing. And I'll put some of the incredible food she gives me. I'll put it in my mouth, and I just go in. I'm just like, how's it going to be with this food?
Yeah.
And same with you, or the breeze comes across your skin.
Yes,
And just
yeah.
take a moment. Or you can be, you can be in a busy office with all whirring, the printers going off over there, and you can just come inside and see what it feels like to listen to those sounds without conceptualizing them, without going, oh, that's the HP printer going off over there, and that's Sam over there clicking his biro on the table. That means he's nervous, and we better watch it at the next meeting. Without those thoughts, just coming inside and going, what's the sensation of listening to all that, and enjoying it for what it is.
And that, it brings us back into our body and into a place where we're connected with ourselves.
Yeah. And of course, connection with others is only possible when we connect with ourselves.
Yes. It's a beautiful journey. It's a beautiful journey.
It is.
Margaret was saying, she's just saying, this is interesting and thank you. Isn't life complicated? With a great big smile. It's a complicated but beautiful journey.
Yeah.
And what we make of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It is. So in October, I believe you are running a Learning Love retreat at Cortijo Romero.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah. Doing a week. Oh, I haven't got my dates here.
That's okay. We'll put it in the live stream. Yeah,
Cortijo Romero, which is a lovely retreat centre nearby. It's in the next valley from House of Light. I think it's the longest standing retreat centre in our area.
Yes,
it's been going at least 30 years. So it'd be great to see any of you there.
Yeah, we can post the details of that here on the live stream.
Yeah.
And you're available and open to people connecting to find out more about Learning Love.
Yeah. And if you have questions, post them. I'm love to answer them.
Yeah, we'll keep on top of them and we'll get back to you. So is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Just a moment to come in.
And the strimmer has started. Okay. Well, it's been lovely hearing more about Learning Love. Thank you very much, Adrian.
Well, thanks for supporting and being here to help me share.
No, I'm enjoying it. I love hearing about it.
Yeah, and obviously I love wobbling on about it. It's
beautiful.
It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you about it and to have a platform to share more, because I do feel so passionate about this work. And I'd like to make a plug for, there's a film just been put out by Dr. Gabriel Matter called The Wisdom of Trauma. If you're interested in this subject, I really encourage watching it. He so succinctly puts the importance of the understanding of trauma needs to be taught to our teachers, to our police, to our doctors, our nurses, our prison wardens, so that our society has a better understanding. And one question he comes up with in the film that really struck me, it's really worthwhile watching this program. It's about an hour and a half long. He points out, rather than when we look at someone who say, what's wrong with them? Okay, we could say, oh, he's a murderer, so what do? We put him in prison. She's got a tumour, so we'll cut it out or poison it. Or this person's got behavioural problems, what do we do with it? Rather than saying, what's wrong with this person, we could do with asking, what happened to this person? Because behind so much of what we struggle with in life is trauma. And to have space for that, an understanding of how strong a driving force and motivation and how much it shapes our lives, our childhood traumas are, or traumas later on, it would just be so much more.
It could transform our world, couldn't it? Yeah. Transform society. Yeah. It would be huge.
We could live so much nearer to our potential.
Yes. Yeah.
As a species.
Yeah. That would be beautiful. So that was Wisdom of Trauma?
The Wisdom of Trauma, yeah. Dr. Gabriel Matte.
And I think you said it's on YouTube, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. You can find it there. It's being put together by SAND, the Science and Non-Duality group. They put a lot of good stuff out. This film is
fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you, Adrian. And
thanks for joining.
Thank you for joining. So it's Margaret and Jenny for joining us live. And if any of you have got any comments or anything you'd like help with, just comment on the live stream and we will get back to you. So lots of love to you all, and lots of love from House of Light, from Adrian, and from myself, Sally. And we'll see you all again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.